Okay, so it shouldn't really come to a shock that Professor Oak was a battle that was left out from the games. But what's even more crazy is that, Professor Oak never would have used Blastoise if he was to have Blastoise as his starter. And so basically, because the reason why this was because obviously, Blastoise wasn't what Squirtle was originally immortal, where it was supposed to evolve into. It was supposed to be Tortle, the Pokemon that Squirtle originally evolved into, War Turtle wise. So it's a very interesting Pokemon how they came across that. And Totartle was actually supposed to be a water and a fighting type. I actually found this out a while ago too, but Blastoise was actually supposed to be a water and a ground type. Which, if you know this for a fact, Blastoise was originally a water type in the games, but the first water ground type that we got, I guess I could see where they got the concept for that for Blaziken, or not Blaziken, Swampert, back in Gen 3. Because once Pokemon evolved into the third generation, that's when they had a third type advantage. But for some weird reason, and I'm noticing this, even somebody like Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur was originally a dual type from the very start, but what's really interesting is according to the Gen 1 prototype data, Ivysaur wasn't even supposed to be a poison type until after it evolved into Venusaur, which is kind of interesting. Maybe they just didn't, again, maybe they didn't finish programming a lot of stuff, or maybe they had different concept designs at the time. Kind of interesting, really, how a lot of this stuff is like, it's just a combination of timing and prototype data that wasn't finished. So it kind of makes me wonder, it'll always be those two questions, did they just not finish it, or was that finished at that time, that one thing. It's interesting to see where they left off on some things, some ideas. So anyways, now we have more reasons to believe that there's even more concept art that we probably should keep looking for, whatever those decisions might have been and what they detail. I'm still trying to find this stuff, but I just think it's interesting though. So yeah, Blastoise would have still been like around like level 69 or something crazy like that, or level 67 maybe, whatever its starter was. And that would have been Professor Oak's starter. Then you would have a Tauros, a Gyarados, an Arcanine, um, something else, Executor, I believe, and then let's see, Gyarados, Executor, his starter, Tauros, and then throw Arcanine in there, all sorts of crazy shit. But but I think it's kind of weird how they didn't just give him 6 Pokemon, maybe throw a Dragonite in there or something, or a Cryothin, Water Dragon, just to really embezzle with the results and see what you got. So that'd be interesting. But yeah, Professor Oak, even if it was just a show, I mean, I still think he could be better than most trainers because he obviously was serious and had the experience for it. So there's no doubt in my mind he could do that. What else? Well, I also think the rival would have also been a little bit weaker. That's definitely where they got the concept for all 3 Pokemon. I think you were supposed to be able to catch all 3 starters at some point in the game too. So. But it's weird though to think that your rival actually had all 3 of them, and his levels were a little bit lower. They weren't even on level 60 by the time you fought him in the Elite Four. I think the starters were on like level 57-ish. And regardless of what team you would have picked, he would have still had the same team at that point. So it's interesting to think, what would have been different at that time. What Pokemon games could we have created? What kind of other ROM hacks could we have created if somebody could have like re-envisioned it somehow? That would also explain why, if you actually dig into the prototype, or you dig into some of the data, why like some of the Pokemon move pools for some of the teams were kind of unfinished, and why some Pokemon only had 3 moves instead of 4, because they deleted some of the moves that didn't make it into the final version of the prototype data. So again, cartridge limitations in this case. It's interesting because I remember like they said that like for example Professor Oak's Arcanine only had Ember, but actually was supposed to have a move called Flare, which I think was later reworked into Flame Wheel in Gen 2, because that just kind of made more sense. So that explains what they did with it anyways. But yeah, so it's interesting to think what were implying back in the day and what they try to get away with, you know, just to see all intents and purposes. It's pretty cool, actually, when you really try to look into the data and the history. So it doesn't surprise me at all. But again, if I find any more results, I'll have to make more videos about it. But this is what I'm finding so far. So there's definitely more stuff to look into. But I'm just gonna try to find all the types right now, and then just kind of introduce it, like, you know, just to show you like what typing advantages they were. Apparently I was wrong too. Maybe at one point Gyarados was supposed to be a water dragon, but I could have swore, like, I'm dead serious when I say this. Like, I remember when I was younger, I could have swore, like, you know, even in like the final version of Red, Blue, or Yellow, or whatever fucking version it was, it wasn't a flying water type. I swear it was like a dragon and a water type. So I don't know how the hell that happened, but you know, maybe there was a reason they changed it. I mean, obviously they changed it because there were no dragon type moves, but you know, for it to be a water dragon type would have been interesting though. And if especially if Gyarados would have had more dragon moves, that would have actually worked out. I mean, even to this day, I mean, Gyarados could still be beaten even if it was somehow like a dragon and a, you know, water type. But obviously they changed it because they thought that, you know, because here's the thing, in Gen 1, you know, there were actual water dragons in Gen 1 that were cut, and they're not super effective towards anything except for dragon moves. And keep in mind, fairy moves don't exist in Gen 1, obviously, but so that's kind of something to think about. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see how they would have fit that out if those Pokemon would have still been in those games. But yeah, so also I'm trying to think. But yeah, if I find any more information, I'll update you. But yeah, really, just subscribe if you're not already, and I'll just keep an eye out for things. See what I come across.